Currently, I wasn't expecting my ego to get wrecked by a girl in sneakers who didn't care I owned the building. Literally. I walked into my own office at 10 p.m. Sleeves rolled up, tie loose, and found her sitting at my desk, typing like the world owed her a deadline. My desk, my building, my name on the skyline. "Excuse me," I said, leaning against the glass wall, voice deliberately smooth. "Most people don't break into offices they don't own." She didn't even look up. "Most people don't leave their lights on if they don't want people thinking someone's still working." Ballsy. I crossed my arms. "You're new." "Sharp observation," she said, finally glancing at me. Brown eyes, sharp as espresso and twice as bitter. "And you must be—" She paused as if tasting the name. "Ethan Cole, the CEO who fires people for breathing wrong." A grin tugged at my mouth. "Depends on the breathing pattern," she snorted, actually snorted, and turned back to her screen. "Relax, I'm the new project analyst. HR emailed about my night access. You might want to check your inbox instead of lurking like Batman." Austin's city lights glowed behind her, reflected in the glass wall. She looked small compared to the skyline, but somehow she filled the room, like she didn't belong to the background. "I'm not used to people working late on their first week," I said. "Yeah. Well, some of us don't have chauffeurs waiting downstairs," I laughed, low and amused. "You really have a thing against people with money, huh?" "Only the ones who think it makes them interesting." That hit harder than I expected. I'd built Cole Industries. From nothing. Or at least from the ashes of my father's company after he crashed it and himself in the same year. Money was the armor I wore. Confidence, the weapon. But this woman, she was looking straight through it. "Name?" I asked. "Lena Hart." "Lena," I repeated, testing the sound. "You always this charming? Or is it just me who gets the special treatment?" She gave a thin smile. "Just you! I should have been annoyed." Instead, I was intrigued. The next morning, I walked into the glass conference room for a quarterly review, and there she was again, hair tied up, tapping her pen, flipping through charts like she'd been running the company for years. My assistant whispered, "That's the new analyst." HR said she's brilliant, but kind of blunt. "Perfect," I murmured. Halfway through the meeting, she interrupted me. "I'm sorry, Mr. Cole," she said, cutting across my presentation with an unflinching tone. "But your cost projection here assumes the suppliers in Houston will meet your deadlines." "They won't, not at that margin." The room went dead quiet. I arched a brow. "You're disagreeing with the CEO." "I'm disagreeing with incorrect math," she said. "Big difference. Someone choked on coffee, and I laughed. "Fine," I said, handing her the marker. "Show me how you'd fix it." She did. Efficiently, confidently, without a single glance for approval. When she finished, I caught myself clapping. Slowly but genuinely. "Remind me to double your salary before you insult me again," I said. She rolled her eyes. "Don't worry, you'll forget by lunch." I didn't. Over the next few days, she kept working those late nights. Always the last to leave, hair falling out of its bun, sleeves rolled up. And me, I kept finding excuses to check on operations. It wasn't intentional. Okay, it was. I'd walk in pretending to review reports just to hear her muttering about spreadsheets or humming off-key. She didn't realize it, but her presence broke the silence of those sterile executive floors. The silence I used to find comforting. Until her. I didn't realize it was actually loneliness. "You're here again," she said one evening, not even looking up. "So are you." "Yeah, because I have work." "What's your excuse?" "You," she froze for half a second. "That line might work on your shareholders, but not me." "Who said it was a line?" She finally looked at me, brow raised, the faintest smile teasing her lips. "You really don't give up, do you?" "Not when I want something." "Then maybe you should want better habits." God. She was infuriating, and I couldn't look away. 2 weeks later, we both got cornered. The press caught wind of a mystery woman leaving the Cole Industries building at midnight, conveniently photographed beside my car. Some blogger titled it, "CEO's Secret Late Night Companion." The headline spread faster than wildfire. My PR team stormed my office the next morning, waving tablets in panic. "Ethan, it's trending." "We need a statement." Lena burst in right after them, her expression thunderous. "You need to fix this." "My mom reads these sites." "I didn't leak it," I said, holding up my hands. "Oh, please," she shot back. Like I'd believe the billionaire playboy isn't using a scandal for attention. That's not my style. Really? Because your style screams, look at me. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. And your screams pretend you don't care, she faltered. Just for a second. Then recovered, chin high. I'm requesting a department transfer. Denied. Her eyes widened. You can't. I can, I said, stepping even closer. You're the best analyst I've got. And until this rumor dies down, we work together directly to prove it's all business. You'll sit in on my client meetings, review reports with me, the whole deal. Her glare could have burned through glass. You're forcing me to babysit you. More like saving face together. I should quit. Then they'll assume the rumor's true. That shut her up. She looked furious, humiliated, and trapped. And me? I hated myself a little for enjoying it. The next day, she marched into my office, dropped a thick file on my desk, and said, Fine, I'll play along. But don't talk to me unless it's about work. I leaned back in my chair, smirking. I don't recall agreeing to your terms. Too bad, she said. I'm setting them. I liked her fire. Too much. She didn't know it, but her defiance felt like oxygen in a life that had gone stale. Everyone else either agreed with me or feared me. She challenged me, and I didn't realize how much I needed that until she walked into my office that first night. 3 days into our reluctant partnership, we flew to Dallas for a contract negotiation. The meeting ran long, and she spent the flight back scrolling through her notes, refusing to talk to me. Still mad? I asked, still existing. Is that a no? That's a don't push it, I chuckled. You really don't care that the entire internet thinks we're a thing? I care that I might lose my job because of it. You won't. Because you'll protect me? She said with a hint of sarcasm. I met her gaze. Because I don't let good people pay for my mistakes. Something shifted in her eyes. Briefly. Then she looked away. Maybe you should start by not making them, she muttered. Touché. The next morning, she arrived early, earlier than me. When I walked in, she was at my desk again, reviewing numbers, the morning sun streaking through the glass. You always start your day by stealing my chair? I asked. She looked up, tired but resolute. Someone has to make sure this empire doesn't crumble while you're busy charming reporters. I smiled. You think I'm charming? I think you're exhausting, I laughed. Close enough. But then, she looked at me differently. Not with disdain this time, but something quieter. Concern, maybe. Why do you even care so much what people think? She asked. You're rich, successful, probably allergic to human connection. Why let a rumor bother you? Her honesty was a punch to the gut. I didn't answer. Couldn't, because the truth was I wasn't angry about the rumor. I was angry because it made me realize I didn't hate the idea of it being true. When she left my office that evening, I watched her go. Ponytail swinging, confidence radiating, and for the first time in years, I felt something sharp and inconvenient clawing beneath my armor. Not pride, not ego, something that scared me far more than both. Cliffhanger, end of Act 1. The next morning, HR called me in. Ethan, there's been a complaint, they said. I froze. From who? Lena Hart. When HR said her name, something cold lodged in my chest. Lena Hart filed a complaint? I repeated, keeping my tone level, though my pulse had other ideas. The HR director, a middle-aged woman who'd been with the company longer than I'd been alive, adjusted her glasses. She stated there's been inappropriate pressure regarding her assignment with you. She feels cornered. Cornered? I asked, jaw tightening. I told her to work directly with me because of a PR crisis, not... She claims the arrangement wasn't voluntary. I exhaled slowly. It wasn't romantic. It was damage control. Her gaze was calm but firm. Still, Mr. Cole, I'd suggest you handle this delicately. The board doesn't need another scandal. I left her office with that word echoing in my head. Delicately. Delicate wasn't exactly my style, but losing Lena, that somehow, was worse. I found her later that afternoon in the analytics room, surrounded by screens, typing like she was trying to erase me from the system. Lena. She didn't look up. If you're here to talk me out of it, don't. Then tell me why, I said, stepping closer. Why the complaint? She stopped typing. Because I don't want to be the girl in your scandal story. Because this, she gestured vaguely between us, has already cost me respect in this office. And because every time you talk, people assume it means something it doesn't. I was protecting you. Her eyes snapped to mine. You were protecting your image. There's a difference. That one hit clean. Fine, I said quietly. Then what do you want me to do? Reassign me. Let me work without your shadow hovering over everything. I folded my arms. You hate me that much? I don't hate you, she said, voice low. I just don't want to be near you. You confuse things. That made me smile even though I shouldn't have. Good confusion or bad? She glared. You really can't turn it off, can you? Not around you, she sighed, pinching the bridge of her nose. You're impossible. Maybe, I said. But I'm not letting you go. Not yet, her eyes widened. That's not your choice. Actually, I said softly, it is. Because the client meeting tomorrow? You're the only analyst who understands the numbers. You're on it. With me? She opened her mouth to argue, but I was already walking away. Mostly because if I stayed, I might have said something I couldn't take back. The next day, we drove out of the city to meet a construction partner in Round Rock. The Texas sun was brutal, the air thick with heat and tension. She didn't speak the entire ride. I tried, once. You know, I said, eyes on the road, if silence were a weapon, you'd be dangerous. Maybe I already am, she murmured. Good, I said. I like dangerous, she turned toward the window. That's your problem. We arrived at the construction site, steel frames, dust, men in helmets shouting over drills. She got straight to work, scanning documents, asking precise questions, ignoring me completely. But I watched her. The way she pushed her hair back with a pencil, the concentration in her brow, the confidence in her tone when she corrected an engineer twice her size. She was fire contained in logic, and for the first time in years, I didn't want to douse it and I wanted to stand near it. Halfway through the meeting, one of the contractors made a comment, a crude one, muttered under his breath but not quiet enough. Looks like the boss found himself a distraction, he said, smirking at me. Before I could react, Lena turned, eyes blazing. Actually, the boss brought someone who understands your cost overruns better than you do. Maybe focus on that. The man went silent. I stared at her, half in awe, half in guilt. When the meeting ended, I followed her toward the car. You didn't have to do that, I said. I wasn't doing it for you, she said. I was doing it because people like that think women only get ahead by proximity. And I'm tired of proving otherwise. I stopped walking. I never thought that about you. She turned to me, eyes soft but wary. Maybe not. But you don't live with those assumptions every day, Ethan. I do. For once, I didn't have a comeback. Just silence. And something heavy pressing against my chest. The drive back was quieter, but less hostile. When we hit the highway, she finally spoke. Why do you care so much about control? I glanced at her. Because losing it once nearly destroyed me. Her head tilted. Your father's company? I nodded. He built it. I rebuilt it. But somewhere in between, I forgot what it was like to build for people, not for revenge. Revenge against what? Failure, I said. The fear of it. The humiliation of watching everything you thought was stable collapse overnight. She was quiet for a long time, then softly, that sounds lonely. It was. The car hummed for a while, nothing but tires and wind between us. Then she said something I didn't expect. For what it's worth, you rebuilt it beautifully. That shouldn't have hit me as hard as it did, but it did. Over the next week, something shifted. Our arguments turned into teasing. Our silences grew less sharp. She still rolled her eyes when I flirted, but now she smiled afterward. One afternoon, I caught her laughing with my assistant in the break room. A real laugh, bright, unguarded. It did something inconvenient to my chest. She noticed me watching and crossed her arms. Don't start. Start what? That thing where you look at me like you're planning something? I usually am, I said. Ethan. I held up my hands. Fine, no plans. Just observing. Observing what? That you laugh differently when you're not defending yourself. She froze, the smile fading a little. You notice too much? Maybe, I said quietly. Maybe I finally found something worth noticing. Her eyes flickered. Conflict, curiosity, something else, before she turned away. By the time Friday rolled around, the rumor had died down. Our teamwork, our visible professionalism, the joint presentations, it all helped. But the air between us had changed. That evening, she came to drop off some reports at my office. The sunset lit the glass in gold, turning her hair copper. "Looks like the media's finally off your back," she said. "Off our backs," I corrected. "You helped fix it," she smiled faintly. "Good, then we can both go back to normal." I leaned against the desk.
"You think I want normal?"
"You should," she said. "It's safer," I laughed softly. "I've never been good at safe." "I've noticed." We stood there a few feet apart, the tension thick enough to touch. "You know," I said quietly, "I had a rule once. Never get involved with anyone at work." She raised a brow. "Sounds wise." "Yeah, it was." "Was?" "Until you." Her breath caught. "Just barely, but I heard it." "Don't," she whispered. "Don't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I might start believing them." For a second, neither of us moved. Then she turned, fast. "Good night, Ethan." I watched her go, again, wishing I'd kept my mouth shut and hating that I didn't. The next morning, she wasn't in the office. No text. No email. Nothing. By noon, I was pacing like a lunatic. My assistant walked in with an envelope. She asked me to give you this. Inside was her resignation letter, short, professional, final. I stared at it for a long time, trying to breathe past the weight in my chest. Then my phone buzzed. A headline notification. Coal Industries analyst quits after CEO favoritism, scandal reignites online. The photo beneath it? Me and Lena at the construction site, sunlight catching her face, both of us mid-smile. Someone had leaked it. Again. And this time it looked real. I called her. Straight to voicemail, texted her. No response. By 5 p.m., I was sitting in my office, staring at that photo, knowing exactly what it looked like. A man who broke his own rule, and a woman who paid for it. The irony stung. I'd tried to protect her from gossip, and somehow I'd become the reason she left. I'd been in hundreds of board meetings, but never one where the air felt this thin. The lawyers sat in a neat row. The board members whispered like vultures waiting for the fall. And there she was, Lena Hart, the woman who once corrected my math, now sitting across from me like she was building a case brick by brick. My heart shouldn't have reacted. But it did. Her hair was down. Her expression, a calm, unreadable. But her eyes, they weren't angry. Not anymore. They were tired, and somehow that hurt more. The lead attorney began. "Mr. Cole, the complaint alleges coercive behavior and a hostile work environment resulting from an imbalance of power." I leaned forward. "I never coerced her." The attorney lifted a brow. "Then perhaps you'd like to explain the rumors, the late nights, and why Ms. Hart resigned immediately following your alleged involvement." "Alleged involvement?" I repeated, forcing myself not to look at Lena. "You mean the photos your source fabricated?" The room murmured. I swallowed my temper. The old me, the CEO who'd built his empire on control, wanted to fight, dominate, crush the room with logic. But all I could see was her, sitting perfectly still, hands clasped tight in her lap. "I'll take responsibility," I said finally, "for the rumors, the poor optics, for not protecting my employee from them." But I did not pressure her, and if she felt that way, then I failed in more ways than one. Lena's gaze flicked up, meeting mine for a heartbeat before darting away. The attorney cleared his throat. "That will be noted. We'll move to a private resolution review. Translation. The lawyers would battle it out behind closed doors, and my reputation would either survive or collapse." I didn't wait for the outcome. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and said, "You know how to reach me," and walked out. The press smelled blood before the ink even dried. By noon, my name was back in headlines. Coal Industries CEO under fire for workplace scandal, investors called. My PR chief begged for statements. The board whispered about temporary leave. I didn't care. I only cared that I'd lost her. That night, daylight still pouring through my floor-to-ceiling windows, I sat at my desk, staring at the skyline I once thought defined me. Austin's heat shimmered beyond the glass. Cars crawled below like nothing had changed, but everything had. For once, the silence wasn't peaceful. It was punishing. 2 days passed before I saw her again. She showed up at the office, and not for me, but for HR mediation. Still, seeing her walk those halls again sent something sharp through me. I caught her by the elevators. "Lena," she froze. "You shouldn't talk to me, I know. But I need to." Her arms folded, defensive. "Say it fast," I exhaled. I never meant for any of this to happen. The rumors, the complaint, all of it spiraled because I didn't see how it looked from your side. I was arrogant enough to think I could protect you, when really, I was making things worse. She looked at me, not angry now, but deeply painfully sad. "Ethan," she said softly, "you didn't make me file the complaint." "Then why did you?" "Because it was the only way to make you see me as something other than a complication." Her words hit like a slow, deliberate strike. "I saw you as—" "Don't," she said, shaking her head. "You don't know what you saw. You liked the challenge, the banter, the thrill of being wanted by someone who didn't want you back. That's not the same as seeing me." I swallowed hard. "You think I don't see you? Lena, you're the only thing I've seen clearly in years." She blinked, visibly torn, then looked away. "Then why does it always have to hurt?" "Because that's what honesty felt like," I wanted to say. But she was already stepping into the elevator. The doors closed between us with a soft ding, and I stood there, for the first time, powerless. The board voted to suspend me temporarily. PR spin. Personal leave. Translation. Exile. So I did what I hadn't done in years. I left town. I drove out past the city, past the glass towers and the noise, into open country. The air smelled like cedar and dust. I stayed in a small house I owned on the outskirts of hill country, somewhere I'd forgotten existed. Days passed. I ignored calls. I worked out until my body hurt enough to silence my thoughts, but she was there, always, in every unfinished report on my desk, in every damn sunset, the girl who broke my rule and made me realize why the rule existed in the first place. Not to protect the company. To protect myself from ever needing someone who could undo me with one look. A week later, my assistant drove out with news. "Lena dropped the case," she said. "HR cleared you, but she refused a settlement. Said she didn't want money, just distance. Distance. The one thing I hadn't been able to give her." That night I sat on the porch, staring at the horizon until the light burned orange, and somewhere between the hum of cicadas and the ache in my chest, I realized what I'd never told her. I'd broken my code long before I said it out loud. By Monday, I was back in Austin. No press, no fanfare, just me and a single mission. Find her. Took me 3 hours. She wasn't at the office anymore. She'd taken a job at a non-profit downtown, consulting for small businesses. Of course she had. When I walked into that building, smaller, warmer, humming with life, I felt out of place in my tailored suit and cufflinks. She was at a desk by the window. Papers spread out, sunlight on her hair. She saw me and froze. "Ethan?" "Hi," I said quietly. "You look—" "Busy. Always," she said, guarded. "Why are you here?" "Because I needed to say something before I lose the chance." She exhaled, weary. "Ethan, this isn't—" "I broke my rule," I said, cutting her off. "You know, the one about not mixing work and emotion?" Turns out the rule wasn't about professionalism. It was about fear. I was afraid that if I let someone in, they'd see the cracks. "And you did." She looked away, voice trembling slightly. "I didn't mean to—" "You did exactly what I needed," I said. "You reminded me I'm human. You called me out. You made me care again. And I don't deserve forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I see you now. Not as a scandal, not as an analyst, not as a problem." "Just you!" Silence filled the room. Only sunlight moved, crawling slowly across the floor. She closed her eyes. "You make it very hard to hate you." I smiled faintly. "I'll take that as progress." She shook her head, but she was smiling too now. Soft, reluctant, real. "I'm not coming back to coal industries," she said. "I didn't ask you to." "Then what do you want, Ethan?" I stepped closer, voice low. A chance to start over, somewhere outside of boardrooms and rules. Coffee, a walk. Something normal. She studied me for a long time, eyes searching, testing. Then she said, "You'd really settle for normal?" "With you?" I said. "Absolutely." 3 months later, coal industries was back on its feet. I returned as CEO, this time quieter. Less armor, more honesty. The company's motto changed too. Build what matters. But I didn't care about the PR slogans anymore. Because most nights, well, late afternoons now, thanks to her, I'd find Lena sitting across from me in a cafe, laptop open, still correcting my math. And every time she caught me watching her, she'd roll her eyes and say, "Stop looking at me like that. We're working," and I'd grin. I know. It's terrifying. One evening, as we closed our laptops, she looked at me, sunlight sliding across her face, and said, "You really did change." "Yeah," I said, reaching for her hand. Turns out all it took was one woman who didn't care that I owned the building. She laughed, soft and disbelieving. "You still use that line?" "Only when it's true." She squeezed my hand. "And the late nights?" "I keep them," I said, "just for us. If you felt that ending in your chest, hit that button right now." Don't forget to subscribe for more powerful billionaire love stories. Stories where pride breaks, hearts heal, and love always wins in daylight. Tell me in the comments, would you forgive Ethan if you were Lena? Or walk away forever? Your thoughts might inspire the next story.